Hi fellows, and this time my video on Lotus Tech Talk is not about doing actual work on your Lotus, but it's about overhauling and upgrading the suspension of your Lotus Elise. I'm going to give you a few examples on what I've done, and also I will give you the total cost on how much it would cost you to recondition and to maybe upgrade the suspension. I've done a moderate upgrade, but you'll see that in a few minutes. So let me get a bit closer with the camera so you can actually see all the work we've done on the Lotus Elise, on the suspension, and then I'll show you some more details. And then at the end, I will show you the bills. So stay with me. When I took the clamshell of the Lotus Elise because it was badly damaged, I decided to overhaul the suspension system. I changed the bushes out on the wishbones, over here on the top wishbone and on the bottom wishbone. I did not use the OEM-based bushes, but I actually replaced it with what we call bearing-based bushes. It's not very hard to do, but it's a bit of fiddling. But you have to pay attention that you actually put the washers back or the spacers back where they were before, because that's important for the front end alignment of the car. The next thing I did, I changed the ball joints on the top wishbone and on the bottom wishbone. And those you have to press out and then press the new ones back in, so you need a special tool for that. Actually, the same is valid for the bushes. You need a tool to push out the bushes and then put the new bushes in. But the new ball joints I put up actually are an upgraded version because they have an adjustment nut on the top, which I now can adjust how stiff they are. I replaced the brake cable while I'm at it with a stainless steel brake cable and some new attachments, and actually the wishbones themselves were taken out of the car. They were sanded down and I painted them with what we call a aluminum zinc based coat, which is basically called cold galvanizing. So this is very well protecting the wishbone for corrosion. And of course I had the damper checked, or the shock checked as well, and we reconditioned a bit, and then you fit all new bolts. So everything is now fitted with brand new bolts. You can buy those kits, and I think if you're replacing or upgrading or overhauling your suspension, you might as well go for all new bolts. However, that was not the only parts that I did change at that moment in time. So if we have a closer look, over here you see what we call the upright, and that's typically not painted. That's typically bare metal, so it gets rusted very quickly. So I sanded it all down and we painted it with engine paint. Now that's looking mighty good if you ask me. And I swapped out the old disc with a new ventilated disc, but this time it's a bell disc, and a bell disc has the normal steel disc side, but then the core of it, or the heart of it, which we call the bell, is aluminum. So we're saving some weight. So this is kind of an upgrade. And if you ever have to change the disc again, then you just undo these bolts basically, and then you can just remove the outer part and you keep the inner part. And it makes 7.5 kilograms difference on the car. So this is kind of an upgrade. Another cheap replacement is the linkage for the anti-roll bar, and to complete, we reconditioned the brake caliper. We sanded it down, we made sure it had no leaks, and then I sprayed some caliper paint on it, and we put new brake pads on. So far for the front suspension of the car, in fact it's a bit more than just the suspension. I also added the brakes to it, but I had easy access, so that was for me the best way to do it. And in the back we did a couple of extra things. I added 2 new drive shafts. The car has about 70,000 kilometers, so it didn't hurt to change the drive shafts out. In fact, one of the drive shafts was badly damaged. The gator was ripped apart, so I had to change one anyway. And the second one, when I checked on it, I also had some leaks on it. One additional element on the rear suspension is the toe link control rod. That I changed with a motorsport rod because that is quite a weak point on the Lotus Elise. And the brake cable, or the manual brake cable, was changed as well. And that's about it. I am quite happy with all the work I've done. It looks mighty good. I really recommend to you that you do the same, because it makes such a big difference when you look at the car. And if they get old, like mine is almost 15 years old, they can use a little bit of a facelift, I would say, without any Botox or fillers. just do the real thing. You know, take your time, spend your time. It's not hard. It just costs a little bit of money, but you'll see at the end of the video how much I actually spent on this and how much it would cost you to do this kind of a overhaul or upgrade if you do it yourself. So let's have a closer look at some of those elements. So this is the upright, and it has been de-rusted and then been painted with black engine paint from Motip, but there is all kind of brands on the market to do this. And here you have the old bearing versus the new bearing. They look almost the same, except in the back, where the old one doesn't have a speed sensor and the new bearings all have a speed sensor, although you cannot use it on the Lotus Elise S2 except on the left rear wheel where the speed sensor is actually mounted. We also changed out the brake pads. These are the new bearing based bushes, and these are the old OEM bushes, and you can see the difference basically. This is a bearing, as you can see. Very well machined, I would have to say. I will probably be very happy with those, and they just fit nicely inside the openings of the wishbones. This is the old toe link, and that was badly damaged, and this is the new motorsport replacement part, which we have fitted on the car by now. So this is the old manual brake cable, and you can see how badly the corrosion is. And it has been replaced with a brand new one, and if you want to know how, then you should check the video that I made on replacing the manual brake cable. And here you have the drive shaft, on the right the new one, and on the left the old one, and you can see that the gator is badly damaged on the old one, and that's why we actually went for a replacement. So if you ever decided to overhaul or uplift your suspension system and your braking system on your Lotus Elise, you're going to need a couple of tools, and I found these tools unavoidable. This is what we call the ball joint removal tool. It is both a press and a removal tool, so you use the inserts to either remove or to press in the new ball joint. You will also need a tool to remove the bushes and insert the bushes. Those are those two dices, and they typically come with the bearing bushes if you buy them. I added a bolt to it and some washers so it's easier to work. And then finally you're going to need a tool like this one. This is a homemade tool. This is used to push back or turn back in the rear brake cylinder of the rear brake caliper when you're doing the brake replacement. And then finally you're going to need some products. You will certainly need some copper grease, and you will need some anti-corrosion grease, and then some anti-corrosion spray. There's a couple of other small pieces of grease you're going to need, like silicone-based grease for the brake calipers, but that you can all find in the common stores. So before you start the job, make sure you have the right tools, because those tools make your life a lot easier. This is not very difficult to do, and I think most people will be able to do it. If you're a little bit handy and you have the right tools, you can easily do this for a fraction of the cost. Let's sum it all up. So here we go. So let's have a look what the total cost is of reconditioning and upgrading to the extent I've done it on the Lotus Elise. So let's have a look. So we got the aluminum bell brake discs for 550 euros. We've got the secondary handbrake cable, 65 euros. Stainless steel brake disc retainer screws, 10 euros. That's one. Let's do the next one. Ball joints, 100 euro. Ball joint splitter, 25. Now that's a tool. It's something you can use afterwards as well. Then we got the motorsport toe link kit, 540 euros. We've got the suspension refresh bolts and nuts kit, 30 euros. We got the wishbone bearing kit, 370 euros. The OE wishbone press bush tool, 30 euros. We got the rubber seal rear caliper guide, 10 euros. I've got the AP Racing 2-pot caliper bleeding nipples, because I changed the bleeding nipples as well, 5 euros each. And we've got the Brembo HP Sport pads for the car, which was 122 euros. We've got the wheel bearings with sensor, 4 of them of course, for 400 euros in total. We've got the complete drive shaft assembly for the left and the right for a total of 790 euros. We've got the anti-drop or anti-roll bar linkage for 65 euros, twice actually, and we got the wishbone assembly rear upper right hand because that wishbone was a bit damaged, so I had to change that one, so that's 300 euros. And then finally I have some Duralac anti-corrosion paint. We've got some corrosion block grease as you've seen, and ACF 50 anti-corrosion spray. So that's all the stuff I got on this Lotus Elise. That makes up, actually, if I'm looking it up properly, 3,460 euros to upgrade and recondition your whole suspension. Now that's for all four wheels, including brand new drive shafts, new bearings, everything. I think you can do this a little bit cheaper if you want, by not using the upgrading parts, but just using standard parts. But I think I chose the right options, but I invite you to come back to me and let me know if it was right or not. So, all I can say is thank you for viewing, and if you consider doing this job, think about it. It's about 300 and 500 euros for the complete car. It is quite some money, but it brings your car back to life and it keeps it on the road. Thanks for viewing again.